Hi, everybody. We're back with another Piercer podcast. I'm Ryan Willett. I pierce at Precision Body Arts in Nashua, New Hampshire. And with me again, I have my friend Kendra. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Kendra.
Hi, my name is Kendra Jane. I pierce at Dragon FX in West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton, Canada.
Canada, eh?
Sorry.
So, before we were talking about volunteering and scholarships, and today we're going to talk about having realistic expectations based on what you see online. So Kendra mentioned something about ear projects and how people can bring in a picture, and it's a gorgeous picture. A lot of people that Kendra and I personally know in the industry pump out some really fantastic material, and we see it a lot on client cell phones. But sometimes they don't really understand the work, the time, the money that goes into it, and we just want to talk about having realistic expectations based on those things. So what was the point you were just making with me earlier, Kendra?
Yeah, I have a lot of clients that will come in and be like, I want this really great ear project. It's gorgeous with this really expensive piece of jewelry. And it's sometimes really difficult to make them understand that, that's great, but this project was 7 or 8 months in the making. So, we pierced it with really basic jewelry. We made sure that it could heal. Then we took some measurements, and then we ordered that jewelry, and then it took 4 months for that jewelry to get here, and now you get to see that finished result. And that can be really off-putting sometimes, but I think having those expectations before you come into it is so important.
Yeah, it's important. It's a subject that I keep bringing up in these podcasts. It's really just all about open communication with your clients. You don't want to try to pull a fast one or make them think that they can have whatever they want instantly, because that's really not going to work out. I tend to see newer piercers kind of pushing for get it all done in one sitting. Like I'm gonna pierce you with this really fancy gold piece of jewelry. Maybe it's not the most viable thing for healing, but it's a high ticket piece. I'm going to be able to put a cool picture on Instagram, and people are going to recognize my name. But you want to think that you have to respect and take care of your clients. If you do a high ticket project on someone and it doesn't work out very well, that client's going to be pretty disappointed in you, and chances are they might not come back. They might go somewhere else where the piercer tends to focus less on the dollar or less on instant gratification and more on viable, healthy results.
I 100% agree. I tend to be what I consider a very cautious piercer as a whole. So when I have people coming in that want 3 or 4 or 5 part projects put in their ear or things like that, I talk about healing times and swelling and commitments, both not just to time frames. So, sleeping for the next 6 months is going to be a bit tricky, but also to those financial investments. So, you're going to be coming to see me every 6 weeks for the next year to downsize those properly, keep those piercings in proper alignment. And I tend to go over that beforehand with all of my clients. Some of them decide not to get pierced, but a large majority of them I'm finding really respect the fact that I'm so open and I just don't want to take their money.
Yeah, I think clients really tend to appreciate hearing no. As long as you say it in a way where you're educating them and you're kind of explaining why you have to turn it down, I think they really appreciate that. I've seen a lot of failed projects, either walking through my door or, pictures online or talking with other experienced piercers, and sometimes people spend a lot of money because the client, the piercer just didn't inform them that, that's really not going to be very easy to heal. So I would much rather tell a client, all right, you don't have ideal anatomy for this, or, this can't all be done in one sitting, or, I can pierce you with something similar to heal with, but, what you're showing me in this picture is a custom component. So I think it's just, it's all about communication and just letting someone know, we can do this for you, we can do this for you, but if you ask us to do this, we're going to have to decline because I don't think you're going to get a satisfactory result from it.
Exactly. And for me, a lot of that communication, too, comes down to the lifestyle of my client. So, if you're a hockey player or a football player, maybe let's work on some projects that aren't in your ears. If you live 15 hours from me, you're not going to be able to come back from those checkups. And because of the location of my shop, those are things that are really, really important for me to know beforehand.
Yeah, I think the consultation is becoming a bit of a lost art. I think a lot of people, okay, so I don't know if it's the same way in Canada, but in the U.S. we have all these different reality shows on tattooing, and some of them feature piercing. And they never really talk about on the show where, okay, yeah, this was weeks in the making, drawing and consulting and emails and scheduling. And I think people think that it's the same thing with piercing, is that, I saw something cute online, I want to recreate it, I should be able to just walk in and get it in 15 minutes. But it's really important, just like you said, to sit down and talk about not only their anatomy and the jewelry they want, but their lifestyle. So if someone does MMA, or someone does sports, or, I've had really frustrating situations where, I've done some really cool piercings on people, and then they say, oh, I'm going on vacation next week and I'm going to be swimming in the ocean every single day, or I'm a lifeguard, is it okay if I get this soaking wet in pool water tomorrow? And, I have to say, no, and it was listed on my release form, but I feel like that's a fault of mine for not really sitting down and drawing it out completely with more of a lengthy consultation.
Yeah, and the piercers and front end staff I work with here know that I want to talk to all of those people. So if you want more than one piercing from me, I want to come out and talk to you. It might only be a 5-minute conversation, but I want you to know what you're getting into. That idea of full informed consent. And I definitely see that with reality TV too. People, well, I want this cover up. I have this picture. On the show, they drew it and they did it in 2 hours. And in reality, that's just not a possibility.
Yeah, and especially in a day where, the jewelry supply chain, so if you need a custom component, it could be a few weeks or a few months before you actually get it in stock. So it can be really difficult. One good way to approach it is to say, okay, I'm going to show you these projects that I've personally done, but I'm also going to show you how they started. So if you're a piercer out there listening and you do project pieces, take pictures of every step of it, not just the final one that you want to post on Instagram. Take pictures and say, okay, we had to heal it with these for 4 months, and then we had to shorten the posts, and then we sized everything up once all the swelling was down, and then we ordered these custom components and put everything together, and this is the final result. It doesn't have to be on every picture you put online, but you should at least have something representative of that in your hard copy portfolio in the studio, or maybe on your website, or, find some way to really explain that to clients looking for that type of work, that this isn't something that you can just walk out the door with today. This is something that's going to take a little bit of time on your part.
Yeah, and I find for me, I work that into that consultation. I say, you know what, we're going to pierce you with what we consider some basic jewelry, so it might still be a prong set jewel or something sparkly, but more basic. And we'll take those measurements today, and when it's healed, your jewelry will be here for us to put in, because we are, being in Canada, waiting a little bit longer for that jewelry. I also find that it makes my clients, I don't know if it makes them, but they tend to take a little bit better care of their project. But they also don't change their jewelry out. They know that in 4 or 5 months when it gets here, they will have exactly what they want, and they're not switching it out 2 or 3 times sooner just to try and make it sparklier or get where they want to go.
Yeah, one big thing that I think kind of works in our advantage now with long jewelry wait times is sometimes that can line up pretty nice with piercing heal times. So if somebody wants some big crazy thing in the ear, I can say, well, you know what? It's going to take a fair amount of time for jewelry, especially if you're going to be going through like one of the high-end gold vendors. Sometimes they're going to need to design it on a computer, and then they're going to need to cast it, and then they're going to need to order special gems and all these different things. That could take 3 or 4 months, and at the same time, your piercing is going to be more or less healed in around the same time. So why don't we do your piercing with some in-stock jewelry that you like today? Then we'll start to talk about your custom order, and then once that comes in, I'd be happy to install it for you, and all those things. So it can work good to keep the client invested, but I've also definitely noticed that as long as you fully make the client aware at the beginning, this is the care that's going to have to go into it if you want to be able to achieve this look at the end. Clients really tend to get serious about it because they know that it's an investment, and they don't want to spoil their investment by, putting in some lower quality jewelry or trying to change it themselves too soon or things like that. The more information the client has, the more success you're going to have as a piercer.
I agree, and I do sometimes, I don't know if I'd call it a cooling off period, but I have people that'll come in and, I want this 5-point project, and they're super excited, and we'll do that consultation, and I don't necessarily feel that they fully understand what they're getting themselves into, so I'll be like, you know what, I need to do some work on my part to make sure that everything is going to be where it needs to be, I want you to come back and see me tomorrow, giving us that 24, 48 hours, depending on schedules, so that they can really think about it, make sure that they have no extra questions that they want answered and things like that. And I know that they're fully committed to that project we're getting into.
Yeah, exactly. And especially, I don't know, have you ever entered Earmageddon?
No.
Yeah. See, okay. I get the chuckle, because when I look at those pictures, first off, to anyone listening, if they're not aware of what Earmageddon is, there's a body jewelry company in California named Industrial Strength. They're a really fantastic high-end company, and every year they sponsor a contest about creative ear projects. They call it Earmageddon. It has a panel of experienced piercers, and they judge the fanciest piercing, but not also just how cool the project is, what its viability is, and is it actually going to be able to heal like that. And when I look at those pictures, I don't think like, ooh, that's so cool looking. I look at it and I'm like, oh, wow, that all the planning that went into that, because you know, like, when Luis or like Rob Hill or somebody pulls off those really cool projects, like that wasn't a day one thing.
No.
Sometimes it can be like 6 months of healing and planning and ordering and, you know, custom augmenting jewelry so that it fits the client just right. And I think that's more impressive than even the final results can be sometimes.
I definitely agree, and even people like Chrissy Shull, she kind of took me through her process, and I work the same way now. I actually take a picture of my client's ear, and then I do tracings and drawings of it, real life size, and get out rulers and measuring tapes, and I'm measuring to the closest millimeter, or 3/16 of an inch, so that...
Nerd. Well, yeah, I mean, but that just shows that, you know, you take it seriously, you know. So, I mean, any tips and tricks you can add into it is only going to make the end project more successful. You know, nobody is going to fail because they tried too hard and you know, they took too many extra steps and too many precautions. So, yeah, I mean, it's really impressive, like the level of work that goes into that. I just, you know, talking with Luis about how he plans out some of his projects, sometimes I really like those moments where I'm like, okay, before we had this conversation, I thought I was a really experienced piercer, and now I realize that I don't know what I'm doing, so thank you.
Yeah, and your projects are one of those things where you're getting in contests like that as a whole, and so not just that one, but larger scale contests like that bring out the best and the worst, I feel like. It brings out the most precise technical abilities in piercers that deserve to win those competitions, but I also feel, unfortunately, it brings out the masses of the people that want to win but don't understand those minute technicalities.
Yeah, the people who think, like, success in a contest like that is entirely based on how much stuff you can cram into one ear.
Yeah. And it comes so much to the fit of things. So even if you know, your angles are bang on and technically that piercing has been executed perfectly, and then you stick a 22-pound hunk of jewelry on there, it's still not going to be healable.
Yeah, I think my all-time favorite Earmageddon entry, and I don't even know if it was for last year's or if it's something that Luis is planning out, but if you saw the one where it was like 3 sort of vertical industrials with black marquee cut stones in it, and it perfectly formed to the ear, and it was just so clean, and it was so impressive, and I think it was only maybe like, you know, six individual holes total, but it just worked so perfect with the ear. It was fantastic.
I think another project you're talking about, it goes from a conch to a helix.
Yeah. With these like black marquee cut, and I think he like anodized everything bronze, but it just looked so clean and so classy, you know, and it really just showed off his level of technical achievement.
But then in regards to that project alone, he admitted that it was harder than he thought it was going to be, and it took him more than one set of jewelry to get that piece just right.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot to piercers as a whole. You know, if you're not happy with something or it isn't 100%, don't let it walk out the door. Do what you have to make it perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when you go through all that effort, you don't want to give the client a so-so project at the end. Like, you want to give them something impressive that's going to be basically a walking business card for you.
And that's exactly what Luis uses them for. He's got his marketing down pat.
So that pretty much wraps us up for this one. My website is precisionbodyarts.com, and you can find more of these podcasts on piercingwizardpodcast.tumblr.com. And thanks for being part of this today, Kendra.
No problem. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.